Once you're elected, what committees would you like to serve on? Where would you like to put your energy?
Yeah, great question. So, as you know, education is who I am and what I have fought for the majority of my career. As someone who is raised in a public school, that's the way I would say call it, but graduated from public school, and believe that public schools can be great, the great equalizer, but unfortunately there's been this narrative that has come out of corporations to privatize education. There's actually no research behind the privatization movement. It destroyed me when I got to the place we kind of by accident got when we were, we sold our company. We're suddenly speaking at these, big corporate events with Condoleezza Rice and, the Secretary of Education, and I'm confronted with the fact that there's not a single teacher, like I was saying, but even at these events, not a single public school teacher, not a single public school principal, maybe the superintendent of the biggest 3 to 10 school districts in the country are there. And I'm coming to this recognition that there's quite a deliberate attempt here to destroy education. You can see it now. We have almost 10% of our schools have been privatized or become charter schools. Maine has luckily kind of stayed out of that. But I've seen the way that, even in my time as a teacher, but since I was a kid, no doubt, the way that school has become all about standardized testing and not about, raising a whole child. So anyway, I really believe that there needs to be a shot in the arm and a whole new approach to American education. So that's a committee I want to be on. I also really healthcare and health and human services are two areas that I feel especially called to. Healthcare, because I think it comes up we did some surveys, and Maine cares about healthcare, seems more than any other issue. The economy probably is second, but these are, healthcare is an issue that obviously needs a new way of looking at it. Martin O'Malley, do you guys know who he is? He called me with his health secretary a couple weeks ago because he read my article in the New York Times about rural access to healthcare. And there are really smart things, cheap things that we could do. And he was like, hey, I want you in Maine to talk about global budgeting. It's like this idea that basically promotes health as opposed to sickness. And so I think that, there's a lot of ways to incentivize health. There's a way to incentivize, people to get out of prison as opposed to stay in prison. There's all these very common sense things that are based in research that we're just not doing. So, but anyway, just getting back to it, those are two. And then I would just add that I think that I worked for the UN just during college. I worked for the United Nations Development Project, and I've spent some time in Uganda working on development issues. And so that's another strength of us, is that we don't just have a domestic standpoint, although we want to focus on domestic and making our country better before we think about other things. But obviously our ability to work around the world from a military perspective, as well as from a defense perspective, as well as from a diplomacy perspective, are very much needed in this time, taking a very common sense as opposed to fear-based approach.